Good evening, friends and fellows. I am Noor, and today we'll talk about something creative. Yeah, our topic for today is create something using literacy skills to produce for the real world. For that discussion, we have with us our honorable guest who goes by the name Student Asim. So, without any further delay, I would introduce him. Student Asim is a Canadian author, creative producer, and emerging filmmaker. He's the author of 5 picture books and producer of various social projects, including One Knife Must Go. His latest project is called Jawab Do. This project explores the partition of India in a social and creative way. He wrote his first book, Khadija Goes to School, in 2011, which introduced him to the world of art and creativity. Glad to have you here with us. I welcome you on behalf of Read Pakistan. As you know about our organization and its motive to promote reading culture, would you like to share your
Mhm.
thoughts on this initiative, or would you like to say anything before we move towards our questions?
First of all, it's really cool to be live in Pakistan. It's really neat. So thank you for having me. And whoa,
We're honored.
there's a fly here. Okay, just anyway. Um, it's yeah, we can just continue with the interview and we'll kind of just have fun with it.
Okay, so can I ask you why do you like to go with the name Student Awesome?
Student Awesome is really all about being a student, and it's just
Okay.
what informs my work, right? Um, it's being okay with yourself and just looking at the world as a student and approaching everything that way, it just becomes easier.
Okay, that's pretty nice. So we'll move to the questions straight away because there are so many things that we want to learn from you. So you say that in your videos, I just read that you say that read for you represents struggle and effort and exploring yourself. The
Right.
same was central concept of your documentary. It was really
Hmm.
great to view it and really fascinating to know that you gave a whole new meaning to and whole new sentiment to the most commonly used word read. This is creativity indeed. Your other works have been no less than creative. We would love to hear about your whole journey, what inspired you, and of
Hmm.
course, what helped you actually manifest your ideas into reality.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of different pieces in there, but I started with writing a book almost 10 years ago, and that kind of opened up my world to this idea of creativity and art. Because Desis in Canada as well have that whole thing where आपने doctor, lawyer, engineer बनना है. So this idea of going into the arts or creativity or telling your stories is not really something that uh,
Mhm.
is explored as much, at least before. I think it's coming up now where people are actually interested in sharing stories and exploring their identities. So I always wanted to, there's a couple of things that happened in my time leading up to writing the book. There's a few people that influenced me, but when I wrote that book, I really approached it as a student, and that was important for me because I didn't actually have any friends that were writers. Growing up, we really didn't get into the arts, so all my friends were very technical and that kind of thing. So, you know, you know, the student approach was critical because I just went with what I had. So I didn't know much about writing. I didn't know much about picture books. I didn't know much about of the whole process. But you know, I tried to embrace it and just So it's important to just go with what you have. That's the very very first thing because a lot of times we become intimidated. We are not sure of what to do, but that's part of it, right? I mean, it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, my first book,
Absolutely.
Khadija Goes to School, मैंने इसको 5 दफा रिवाइज किया है. So I'm on the fifth edition of that book. That's the only book I've actually revised 5 times over 10 years. And if I look back at that first book, I'm like, oh my God, there's things that I did that I can't believe I did that. Again, you have to start somewhere. It's very, very important to at least investigate something, right? I mean, maybe you might not like it, but जब तक आप वो नहीं करोगे तो आपको कैसे पता होगा कि ये आपके लिए अच्छा है या बुरा है? So I think that embrace the idea of the unknown, and that's what I also explore in the book as well. So it kind of went from there.
Great, great.
Yeah.
It's like really, really nice approach to see things and make mistakes, learn from trial and error, and explore your inner self. It's like it should be the motive behind everything you do. There was another project which is by the name of Jawab Do, which explores partition of India in a social way.
Yeah.
It's quite unique, it's quite creative approach to view the history. What was your motivation for it, and how far have you went with this project?
I actually just released Jawab though. Growing up over here, the concept of the partition is unknown. Nobody knows about the partition here. Even the Desi community doesn't know too much about it. It's just the immigrant community that definitely knows a lot more. But the children that are from here don't really know too much, and the curriculum doesn't even talk about it in any depth. So the partition had over 12 million people displaced. Up to 1 to 2 million people that were killed. So it's a massive event in human history. We talk about other events with less people that were killed in great ways, but the partition is invisible. So I wanted to start something that or explore the partition, and I wanted to create awareness about it. First of all, for myself, and for others. So Jawab though is part of a larger project. I still have to write the book, and I'm still working on the book. But Jawab though का मतलब ये है ना कि पहले अपने आप को जवाब दे. Like why don't you know about the partition? So it's an inner conversation about finding that answer. Or फिर communities के बीच में, Jawab though is really an impression of my research. I actually got a graphic along, so it really is
Symbolizes a lot.
It symbolizes the research I felt not knowing about partition, as a visual. And there's an online component that I'm trying to get going. So for all the people listening out there, there's a hashtag Jawab1947 that will further the project and investigate the jawabs between people. So I felt like हमारे communities के बीच में ना ऊपर ऊपर से लोग बात करते हैं. They're not really talking directly to each other. There's lots of grievances. People were killed on both sides, and people have some different opinions about it. So I'm interested in exploring those nuances, exploring those opinions, exploring those details, having conversations. The Jawab knows about that Jawab between people. It's to yourself. It's to the curriculum, to the people, to the authorities in charge. कि आप हमें जवाब दें कि आप हमें क्यों नहीं सिखा रहे. So I think whether or not the authorities actually come around and do this or not, the project is independent of any curriculum. I mean, and I'm looking to collaborate with people on Jawab though. You can find out more at jawabdo1947.com. But it's important to it just stands on its own, and it can be aligned with anyone working on this. It doesn't have to be stuck in a curriculum. Rather, it's about interest, and it's online.
Great. It's really a great initiative, and it's like really surprising to know that somebody who is living abroad, and he's concerned, and he wants to give something to our community. He wants to explore the history. He wants to make it a more storytelling type of thing, and by which people can interact with each other, by which they can know history better, they can know the sufferings better, they can know their sacrifices better. So it's really great work on your part. So moving on to your first picture book, Khadija Goes to School. What type of a story is that, and what potential readers did you have in mind while working over it, and what did you aspire to achieve while you were working over it?
Honestly, I just I didn't really, it was my first book, so like I said, I didn't really know anyone from the community. It was literally just jumping in and just doing something I've never done before. It's like I just, decided that I was going to write a book. So खदीजा कोशिश school is एक तो story है, लेकिन उसका मतलब जो है ना मेरे लिए, it's really a key into the door of a new life. The story is really about this whole journey, I guess. It's about human potential. जिसमें ये है कि जब आपको मकसद अपना पता है जिस चीज का, तो फिर बाकी जो चीजें हैं ना, they become clear. So for example, जैसे कहते हैं ना लोग बच्चों को पढ़ो या do this, you do that, लेकिन जो उसके जो मकसद है वो अक्सर it's not explored as much. So the children and the young people, when you say read, it doesn't connect with people because it's like, why should I read? Doing something on its own is, useless. You have to associate it with something that is more deeper. So I think that's the kind of message and kind of ideas I'm trying to explore, the ideas of giving. So that's what Khadija Goes to School is about. It's about giving. And that's what it kind of explores through human potential, through this idea of literacy, and through this idea of helping yourself and helping other people, which is the theme of the book, which is about giving. So I think once you kind of understand, what you want to do, then you can understand how you can do that. For example, just say for Jawab and for my partition project, I found myself watching a lot of interviews, survivor interviews, ठीक है, जो लोग वहाँ से आए थे इंडिया से, तो उन्होंने क्या दिखा, ठीक है. So I've also done a lot of reading. So all these things kind of are necessary to be informed. So I think it's important. It's not just about reading. It's about having a maqsad. ठीक है, जब आपका मकसद है ना, so then you use all the tools available to you to achieve your goals.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Anji.
So your picture book, it's about giving. It's about the essence of life, which is really giving. The happiness which you find from giving, you cannot find it in taking. So this is the center of your picture book, which is really nice. But you have also published 5 other picture books, right? So would you like to share with our viewers what are they about? I'm giving you a free chance to advertise them as well.
Well, it's kind of just it's interesting how the creative process works. It's just like something you don't even plan, right? And it just something that you just feel and it comes up. My second book was about friendship. And I mentioned earlier that the reason why I'm writing is really, and the reason why I'm producing is because of a friend I had who I met in grade 7. He was an amazing guy, but he died about 20 years ago, and he really and so that second book was about friendship. And so it was important for me to dedicate the book to him. And that's the kind of cool things you can do when you do these kinds of projects, is that you can really make them personal. And they mean a lot to you, first of all, before they mean something to somebody else. On top of that, kind of, in that book actually it came out 5 years later. So I wrote Khadija Goes to School in 2011, but I wrote this book in 2016. So I was learning a lot in the meantime, thinking about a lot of things. So the second book was actually easier to produce than the first one. So that's another thing that happens when you kind of get into it. You start to, play with creativity. So थोड़ी समझ आती है आपको फिर, and you start to maybe notice some things, and you just learn, right? I mean, that's really what it is. And I'm still learning, and that's why I'm a student. I think that's so important to just be upfront and honest with yourself and say, you know what, चलते हैं, ठीक है, मतलब अगर कुछ नहीं आता मुझे तो कोई बात नहीं. We'll learn, we'll reach out, we'll read, we'll watch some videos, we'll talk to some people. What can we do? That's how it goes. So that's how these books came about. My third book is about wisdom. My fourth book is called My Skin Brown. I can brought it along. I brought all my books along, but I can just show you that one really quickly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely would love
my Skin Brown is like this, and it's about I grew up in this neighborhood in Toronto, and this book is about racism. So there's a scene here that really shows how the communities here in the West, also face this kind of racism. And this is a scene where the boy Aiden comes home and talks to his mom about it. So it was really important to, just uh, just tell your story, unapologetically, just how it is, and I guess these are just things that are not planned. Like I'm saying, they just kind of like I didn't plan to write My Skin Brown. I didn't plan to, which is cool. I mean, I don't really know how the creative process works. It's just you can it spark out that, though you just kind of think about it. And दूसरी बात ये है कि I wanted to really make something. Just wanted to share something is that with the student approach, जो आपके पास अभी जो resources है ना, तो उसी को आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. Like अगर आपके पास 1 लाख रुपए नहीं है, या आपके पास इतना बड़ा नेटवर्क नहीं है, या आपके पास आप भी नहीं जा सकते, या कुछ भी ऐसे, तो जरूरी नहीं है. Like the reason why I started with picture books is because this is what I could actually do right now. So it's important to first of all, just think of yourself as, मैं काफी हूँ, like I'm enough to start with. ठीक है, तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आप मौजूद हैं, आप कुछ कर सकते हैं, शायद कर सकते हैं, कर भी सकते हैं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, कर सकते हो, क्या कर सकते हो. So you kind of go from there, right? It's like, what can I do? So picture books for me is something practical. Writing के लिए आप पेपर पे कागज पे कभी भी लिख सकते हैं. ठीक है, आपको लैपटॉप भी नहीं चाहिए. ठीक है, writing is something you can do. You can maybe work with a friend who's an illustrator, or you can. पहले जो 3 books थी मैंने खुद मेरी family ने illustrate की.
Right.
ठीक है, so I used whatever I had that was available to me immediately. So I think that's very, very important. And when you realize that, you're like, wow, maybe I could just try this. Maybe I could just do this. Like, what is available to me right now as someone who doesn't even know about the field? So for me, if you if you don't have too much money, in fact, I wasn't even working when I wrote the first book. I was out of a job. Just go half look बेरोजगार कहते हैं ना उधर पाकिस्तान में. तो ऐसे था. So it's just going with what you have, going with the little money that you have, going with yourself, which is so much, and you kind of just go from there. And that's how I've approached each project. And when I came to Pakistan, you mentioned the film that I did in Faisalabad at the Gantagar. That film came together literally so fast. But it was a miracle. The film team that I used was from Lahore. I found them on Facebook. I never used Facebook before in Pakistan to contact people like this. And this is while I was in Pakistan. So everything happened literally within like a couple of weeks. I needed to get police permission, so we had to go and do that. So there was a lot of things that happened, and I didn't, I wanted to explore that feeling of trying something in Pakistan and working with people locally in Pakistan. But I never did it before. So it was an experience, and you just got to go with it. Sometimes you just got to make a decision, and you just have to go with it, and see what happens. Just have fun.
That's a great way to see life, and that your story is quite literally really inspiring too, and the lesson that is that you have to use whatever you have and create something out of it. You know, you don't have to look out of things like I don't have this, I don't have that, and wait on till you get all of that things. But you should use whatever you have and produce something new, which is also the topic you picked. And I see that you were quite literally whole of your life has been the same, creating something out of what you have for the real world. So literacy skills, which are normally utilized to produce only literary works. It is great on your part to use them for producing something utterly new for the mainstream, out of the mainstream literature, like picture books and short films. So, if anyone from our viewers, for instance, wants a suggestion from you, maybe some inspiration, some guidelines to start, maybe they have some ideas but not the resources, maybe they have both ideas and resources, but they do not know how to shape them or how to produce something out of them. So, do you have any advice or guideline for them?
Just start. Just start.
Okay, right.
All you have to think
Simple
about
words to start.
ये है honestly, ये जो ऐसे जो कदम होते हैं ना ऐसे like you see these footsteps. When you look back like this, you're like, wow, I came so far, right? Just start. Just put your first foot down, right? The
And
second,
go.
the second step, इतना ये ऐसी खूबसूरत प्रोसेस है कि जब आप पहला कदम लेंगे ना, तो जो दूसरा है ना, वो खुद ब खुद जो है ना, वो शो हो जाएगा, रिवील हो जाएगा. तो आपको 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 एफर्ट भी नहीं करनी, because you take the first step, you arrive in a place and you look around like this and you realize that, wow, you see a few more things. Okay? And then you realize a few more things, and then you think about doing a few more things. So I think, I don't know why they don't. I don't know if they teach this in school or not. But this is just something so basic, but it's yet so profound. And I remember being in a.
So people do not implement it, even if it's so basic and so profound. Still, many
Yeah,
people are
I
so
mean,
afraid to take the first step.
yeah, I mean, it's like, यहाँ इसको fail forward कहते हैं. Now, there's no actual concept of failure. It doesn't even exist. Nothing is like, if you try to take a step, how can you fail? There's people who never do that. So if you take a step, that's amazing. It's not like I don't have this. Change the question and say, what do I have? When you start thinking of it like that, what do I have? I say honestly, like, I don't. It's very interesting when you have these kinds of talks, because I honestly don't think like that. Like, to translate like thoughts in your head into like language, एक kind of disconnected process है. क्योंकि जो आपके दिमाग में जो बातें चल रही होती है ना, वो लैंग्वेज completely इजहार नहीं कर सकता. So don't think about it too much. I mean, I honestly don't think. Just don't think about it. I mean, like, just try, just do it, and it'll just work out.
And things will move on at their own pace with their own speed. Okay, great. So moving on to the next thing, I see that the word read, is the central concept of most of your works. So we would love to know what types of books you read in the end. So you are free to mention some favorites as well.
I have to say something before I answer that question. One of the things, like I said, in my first book, I've actually. So this is my first book here. So as you can see, it's been revised 5 times. So if you saw the film, so in the film you have this big, huge thing that says read. So I've actually updated the concept to talk about this. The reason is that when people used to see this, they would say, हमारे पास बच्चे नहीं है, ये बच्चों के लिए है, ये हमारे लिए नहीं है. तो ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. This is a social concept about your potential. इंसान का जो potential है ना is bigger than anything else. ठीक है. अगर आप मजदूर देखते हैं पाकिस्तान में, या कुछ लोग ना जो term अनपढ़ है, which is a little bit wrong in the sense that कोई भी अनपढ़ नहीं है, मतलब हर एक के पास नॉलेज है. कुछ लोग विजुअली देखते हैं तो उससे सीख लेते हैं, जैसे कुछ लोग हैं मतलब इधर उधर जो जहाँ भी हैं. तो you can learn through sight, through by listening to somebody. आपने ये नहीं देखा कि कभी आप एक चीज विटनेस करते हैं तो in your life changes in a second. So that's not about reading, that's about observation, that's about reflection, that's about, like similarly, when you read a book, you feel empowered through the characters. You don't want to put that book down, for example. So there's many, many ways. So I think the reason why I changed the word read to give is because I absolutely agree that reading is so fundamental to, at least when you're producing something. You have to be informed. लेकिन उसके पीछे क्या है, उसके पीछे एक मकसद है, उसके पीछे एक purpose है. You need to associate that. That's bigger than reading. That's bigger than anything else. So once you understand what you want to do, then you can do what you need to do. So if you have to draw, if you have to, write, if you have to listen, if you have to interview, if you have to think and reflect, if you have to scribble, whatever it is, right? So I think that's what's really important, right? To align yourself with something you need to do, and then use the tools available to you to actually do it. So coming back to your question about reading, for the partition, I didn't actually realize there's actually novels written about the partition. And when I read, one in particular, it really informed me. Lekin I wanted to do that novel study as part of the greater idea of researching the partition. So my research involved, watching a lot of interviews in Punjabi, in Urdu. काफी मैंने जो लफ्ज़ हैं इन तरह ये सीखी है मैंने. और मतलब talking to real eyewitnesses. मेरे अपनी street पे कुछ uncles हैं जो रहते हैं जो partition उन्होंने देखा, and other people. So it involved a lot of different pieces, including reading, like Train to Pakistan. I read that book. It was a very, very good read. I didn't want to put that book down, by Khushwant Singh. And I was reading another book, Ice Candy Man, which is also, it was written by a lady, she's a Parsi. That book was even like some books you enjoy and some books you also find it hard to read. So I found that a bit difficult. It was a bit hard to get through. And I'm also reading another book about the Punjab by a doctor from Switzerland. I think he's from Switzerland. Ishtiaq Ahmed. The Punjab bloodied, partitioned, and I think divided. So that was the way he wrote that book was also very interesting. It wasn't dry. It was engaging. So I'm still reading that book right now. So I hope I tried to answer that question.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for great suggestion about books, great suggestion about working, about starting, about moving with you have, about so many inspirations. How the most important thing that I liked about this whole session was that not living in Pakistan and doing so much for the country, exploring so much about the partition, adding so much to the history. So these are all the things that are so enriched, so basic, so nice about from somebody who is not living in Pakistan but whose patriotism is far more than ours. So it was really a wonderful session, really great discussion, really great suggestions. Thank you so much. Would you like to say something at the end before we end this session?
I'm good. I mean, I appreciate being here. I saw some questions flash up on the screen or something. I mean, if you want to take some of those questions, that's cool as well. Um,
These are basically comments that are added.
okay,
I don't see any particular questions over here,
okay.
but they're all the people are like really privileged, really honored, and they're happy to learn so many things from you.
Well, I mean, I'm just I'm you know, it's an honor to be here. I do appreciate it. Like I said, I'm just a student like everybody else. I'm
Yeah,
probably
that
ready
part was
for.
also something that I learned great from you. That being a student throughout your life, you're learning at every step, and that's great that you call yourself a student. That
Yeah,
everybody can know that you have to learn at every point, at every step, and you have to keep going with these baby steps, learning at every stage, every step. Thank you
Kuch
so
nahi.
much. Thank you
हाँ
so
जी.
much. It was a lovely session. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Take care.